everyone. In today's episode, we'll be talking with an education leader from Tongue River Elementary School in Winchester, Wyoming, and with one of our esteemed Solution Tree associates. They will share with us their experience with Solution Tree, the impact of professional development, particularly with the professional learning community process, and the success story with Tongue River Elementary School becoming a Model PLC. With us today from Tongue River Elementary School, Principal Annie Griffin, joined by our Solution Tree associate, Brandon Jones. Thank you for joining me for this episode. Just the education sector itself, from your conversation and then how I've talked to you before, educators are just so willing to help each other. It's more just complete strangers, you might not have ever met, have ever talked, but it's maybe through email. There's just that genuine approach of wanting for you to do better for your school. And that's just incredible. I feel like teachers don't get that credit enough or that recognition enough of all that you do aside from the in the field as you're working every day. You're over here, you're like superheroes to me. Working over here, trying to get your own professional development so that you can continue to enhance student learning. So that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for the listeners who, may be interested in more of that, like, where can I go find these people that, that have done this or have engaged in this part of the process? So Annie mentioned it earlier, but her school was just accepted as a national model professional learning community school. And every national PLC school is two things that I want you to know about them. One is they're listed on a website called allthingsplc.info. And if you go to that website and you find the button that says PLC Locator, it will show you every national model professional learning community school across the nation. It even has some filters that you can put on to try to find schools that look more like yours. But as a part of that process, every time a school agrees to be a part of that website, they're also saying that they will host schools. They'll host schools on site. They will take phone calls and emails from schools who are curious about the process or maybe running into a specific challenge. So if you're looking for more resources like that, that's a really great place to start.
So thank you. Yes, I love that website. I love the map. It gives you all the, it's very user friendly. It's a very great resource. So I know that you talked about it, Ms. Griffin, but can you describe just in more depth your experience with you and your team that went to the events that Mr. Jones was involved in, and then who went with you? Why were they the people that went with you?
Sure. So I had a teacher from every grade level. I felt that it was important to have that representation, if at all possible. And initially, I should back up. Initially, I didn't have every single grade level, but since I have added a teacher from every grade level. And I felt like we needed to have representation from every grade level, because that way they're able to take that information back to teams, but they're also able to come along in that shared knowledge and become experts on staff. And I felt like every team needs to feel like they've got that representation and that expert person from their staff, or from their team. And so worked with these teachers, and the selection of them was sometimes based on circumstance, was sometimes based on their role within the school. And I felt like these are the people that are going to be able to take this information back. Maybe they were someone who had a little bit of knowledge, but needed a little bit more. There was just a variety. And again, I think it was about them feeling empowered to come and be able to make positive change within our school and be on the forefront of that. And I really, as we have gone through becoming a blue ribbon school and becoming Model PLC school, the applications for that, the ways that you've got to be able to explain what makes your school deserving of these awards, these are the people who are in the trenches and who are able to help with that as well. And so that team was invaluable in getting us to this point, because they have an understanding of what's happening in the trenches. And when I maybe couldn't explain a part, they were right there to be able to facilitate and help with that as well. And so for me, when that grant opportunity came available with the state of Wyoming, I couldn't fill out the paperwork fast enough. It was something where it was like, I know what these trainings are like. I know that it can educate my staff. And I can't, as one person, solely be that's all we would do when there are many other things that are happening at school that I'm responsible for taking on as well. And so this was a beautiful gift to us when we got the acceptance that we were awarded that grant. We had us a celebration. We always bring in cheesecake for our celebrations. I had that mom make those cheesecakes because the day we got that grant meant that we were all going to have that common understanding and be able to work together more as a team. I didn't have to have this feeling of, I've got to get these things taken care of. I'm on my own, I really felt like it provided a leadership team and helped bring that process even further. And the depth of understanding now is because of that grant, is because of the work that we have done with Brandon. And year 3 for us is with Karen Power, and the work that we have done with her as well, just so invaluable. I can't explain what we have gained and how much we have grown. I wish I would have written down all the things we knew before and all the things we know now. It's just, night and day. So exciting to see that kind of growth because of this opportunity.
And it's rewarding that you do see that growth.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, being awarded the 2021 National Blue Ribbon recognition. Yes, very, very congratulations on that. You did mention about that, wanting to be known for your academics alongside your school's kindness. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, absolutely. And it's something where when we were nominated to become Blue Ribbon, it was beyond what we had envisioned for ourselves. We had thought, let's apply for Title I school distinction. Let's apply for Model PLC, and let's chase after these things because our kids deserve and our teachers deserve to be recognized for the work that they're doing. When we were nominated for Blue Ribbon, I remember that we were like, what? And it's because of this collaborative process and what we've done as a professional learning community that we are able to be to that point. And I truly believe that this is the work that allowed us to get to that level and to be able to achieve the highest recognition that you can get, that National Blue Ribbon Award, to go to Washington, D.C., to be representing Tongue River Elementary and the students here. And it's a comical thing. It's something we laugh about at the school, that we have a bell tower outside, and the sign that I had made for that bell tower, it's like large enough to be seen from space, and it's lit up at night. And the reason for that is this: these kids are known for their kindness. They need to be known for their academics. And it's like, look at that. If that doesn't show you right there the kind of people that are inside of this building, I don't know what will. And those kids, when they walk by, it's like a little taller. This pride level is a totally different thing. For us to be recognized academically is not something that has happened much on our Tongue River side. We haven't been known for that. So it's an 8-foot by 12-foot sign on the bell tower. And I was meticulous about every piece because these kids deserve it. When we gave them the blue ribbon shirts and we celebrated and we had our big blue celebration and the snow cones and the slides I can't convey to someone the level of pride that we feel in being presented that award. And I always tell people it wasn't by accident, it was on purpose. It was purposeful work. And we have all put our blood, sweat, and tears to making things the best that we can for our students and for our community. And so that's just like the icing on the cake, I should say.
Absolutely. And very well deserving. The size like itself, that's important, but it's also, like you said, it's a reflection of students seeing that. It's just, and then also your peers as well. The pride that you have about your school really reflects on everything well deserving that you've received, just Model PLC and then the ribbon as well. But I feel like that energy and that pride, your students see that, and they absorb that, and then they want to participate. They want to do well in school. So Oh, good. Yeah, it could be bigger. It could be that sign could be bigger.
Fit on the bell tower. That's the biggest we can
The
do.
bell tower will lean over.
Yeah. Just so much pride. Like I
Oh,
said,
good.
I just can't even explain what it feels like right now to be a member of the TRE family, because my people will never seek those things for themselves. They do their work, they put their heads down, they do the very best every single day, and they won't seek that out for themselves. So it's my job as a leader to go peek inside. Peek inside, community, see what's happening in here. See how very fortunate you are to have your children with these people every day that bring it every single day. It doesn't matter what's happening in their own lives. They turn it on when they walk in these doors, and they deserve to walk by that blue ribbon sign too.
Wow, that's so powerful. Now, looking back to the help team framed sign that you have there, Mr. Jones. So, as a professional learning communities at work expert, can you elaborate on the Help Your Team Overcoming Common Collaborative Challenges in a PLC at Work book and why it's essential to implement collaborative teams?
Sure. So, tell you a little bit about the background of the book. So, over a decade ago, when I was invited to kind of be a part of the Solution Tree family as an associate, there were several people that graduated with me. They have become my very best friends in the community. They are great colleagues, and we have developed just really close friendship over the years, stayed in touch, and we talk all the time. But throughout the first 7 or 8 years of our work with Solution Tree, we were traveling around the country, working with various schools, and we kept hearing some of the same challenges coming up in schools across the country, specifically with teams trying to implement the PLC process. And so the more we talked together, the more we felt like, that we could provide some answers to those challenges, try to lay them out in a very simple way, in a way that people can understand, and then also give some creative tips to try to help overcome those challenges. So the reason that we wrote the book together was to model the PLC process as a collaborative team. And we are scattered as colleagues all across the nation. So we have people in California and Utah and in Michigan and in Texas and Ohio, all over the United States, who helped write this book. And like I said before, we dedicated a chapter to each of the most common challenges that we found. And so in each one of those chapters, you'll see us define the challenge, give some helpful tips of how to overcome that challenge, and then also give you some resources at the end of the chapter to say, hey, if you want to continue your learning, here's some other great resources that you can pull from to dig a little deeper into each one of those areas. But to answer the second part of your question, just why is it important to work in a collaborative team? I think, the fundamental building block of this PLC process is the collaborative team, right? So it's not the PLC, it's not the whole unit, but it is a fundamental building block of this thing that we're calling a professional learning community. And why is it so critical to the work that we do? Here's the reason why it's so critical. We have to agree to a couple of fundamental assumptions about teachers and about educators. So if we're going to try to get all kids, each, every, and all kids within our care to high levels of learning, this is what I know to be true about teachers. Every teacher is coming to work every day doing the very best that they can possibly do. Like, they are putting their best foot forward. They are giving their full effort, sometimes more than they're ever asked to do. They're putting forth their very best every single day. That's the first fundamental assumption. But the second fundamental assumption has to be this, that even though each individual is doing that every single day and giving their very best, no one teacher has all of the resources, energy, time necessary to meet the needs of every single kid in their care. Our elementary teachers, if they're self-contained teachers, they may have 20 to 25 kids in their care on a daily basis, but they're teaching all of the subjects. So multiply that 25 times 5, or when you get into secondary, they may only teach one subject or some variations of that one subject, but they might serve 100 students, 125 kids, 150 kids on a daily basis, which is like, it's crazy to think about how in the world can we get to all kids at high levels when we're serving those kinds of numbers of students or that many subjects. And the answer is it's not possible, right? It's not possible if we try to do it alone. So what do we do in a professional learning community? We recognize both of those things and we say the only way that we will ever achieve that and move closer to that is to work together in a collaborative team, is to look at one another and say, I can't get all of my kids there, but maybe I can help you get yours. And man, if I can't get all of my kids, can you help me with my kids? And we work together to create processes and a culture that's going to help us get to all kids. So that's really the impetus behind why do we work in collaborative teams? It's that we know people are working so very hard as individuals, but we also know that our fundamental mission to get all kids to high levels is something that we can't achieve by ourselves. So we've got to have that collective response and improve that self-efficacy that Hattie talks about. That look, when we have that collective self-efficacy, we know we can do it as a collaborative team. So that's why we encourage that. And that's why it is a fundamental building block of a PLC.
I think as a leader, when you've been in those teams where you learned that you just have to go, what did you do? Please help me and support me. And I think that experience of I've been on those teams, I've been able to see that I had to go, hey, I didn't get this. Will you help me? And so then when I step into that principal role, I've got to be able to help create the culture that says, I'm not here as your evaluator. I'm here to help you be the best you can be. And I've got to communicate and model an understanding of that and not be evaluative in that role. And people will say, well, you can't be that way. Yes, you can. You can step in there as principal and recognize that these are people. And as long as they're growing, who cares? Let them have their process. Let them learn from one another, because it's not about you remaining the evaluator. It's about the students that are going to benefit from this process being done properly and this collaborative process taking place. And so I just think that's so important to recognize they've got to be able to be open enough to throw that data down, to know that you're not going to be judged for that. We're here to help and support. And there's so much we can do when we link arms and we stand together for kids that we couldn't do if we tried to do it all alone.
And would either of you say that because you've worked in collaborative teams, that you've gotten to know people, your colleagues, more on a more connected level, and then also respect, not just we're here to do our job and we're here to do the one thing, but more connecting for purpose and intent?
Absolutely. I think that we know each other. We know what the strengths are. We know what we need to shore up on, and we can build professional development to build ourselves up on that. And I think teachers are to that point where they're willing to go, Annie, I need more information about this. There's an openness there that maybe wasn't there in the very beginning when they were learning what I was about, and trying to figure out what the story is and how this is how I will lead, and I think now, and I think there's an openness between them as teammates as well. And there's a willingness to go, you are so fantastic about taking those formative assessments and adjusting your plans, not even talking about the intervention and extension time, just in the classroom. Talk to me about that. And again, we're making each other better because of that openness and that connection.
I think just to add to that, I agree with everything that Annie just said. I think at the very core, people want to belong, right? We have a sense of wanting to belong in a group, right? And these teams can provide that, right? There are some faculties that get to be so large that sometimes you can get lost in a large faculty. And being on a collaborative team, it gives you this sense that there are other people that are right there with you, walking the same path that you're walking, facing some of the same challenges that you're facing, but we're going to do it together. So they link arms, they face the challenges together, they problem solve together, and then they celebrate the successes together, right? So they depend on one another and then really celebrate when things go well. So.
Oh, I like that. So now just to kind of close it here, it's having already gone through the implementation process, Ms. Griffin, and knowing its procedure, which is a lot, what advice would you give any school interested to venture in their own journey to becoming Model PLC?
I think the first thing is as a leader, you have to be willing to buckle down and learn beside your people. You have to be willing to build your own capacity so that you can help and guide, but you also have to be willing to lean upon the experts in your building, to lean upon the experts outside of your building, and to seek those things that your staff needs. I think that you have to have a strong enough understanding of the professional learning community belief system and process to wholeheartedly embrace that. It's not something that is going to disappear in education. It is the way of education. And I believe that that is why we have achieved what we have achieved. And I believe that to the core. And so in knowing that, I can't imagine a school without this process. And that it would be the first thing that I would want to put in place if I became leader. So I think the thing is remembering you've got to build shared knowledge. You've got to help everybody understand that. It can't be about you saying, this is the way it's done and this is the way. No, we have to build that shared knowledge. And that was a lesson that I had to learn and recognize in myself that I wasn't building that shared knowledge. And I also need to be able to delegate. Like I said, lean upon the experts that are in your building and say, who else can help with this process? Who else is able to support this work? And who's an expert? And so again, I think it's just about setting your own, it's not pride as much as your own need to be in charge to the side. It's not about that. It's about making things better for kids. And if you truly are a servant leader, then you're willing to set those things aside. You're willing to do the work that needs to be done to help your people rise to the level they're able to, and to the level that will best serve your students too.
And then, Mr. Jones, as you are also familiar with the Model PLC process, what advice would you give education leaders?
Yeah, so I would say kind of from both ends of the spectrum, if you're just starting or you're thinking about trying to engage in this process, one piece of advice that I would give is this: don't skip over establishing why we are engaging in this process, right? Like spend some time both personally reflecting on that and then also collectively as a staff engaging in that dialogue and that conversation about why in the world should we change the things that we're already doing to try to improve, right? Because, like we said before, initiatives are a dime a dozen. And, we typically in education, we chase the next shiny toy, the thing that's supposed to be the magic button to fix all of the issues that we have in schools. And that's not what this is. So spending some time to establish why in the world would we engage in activities that are so different from the way that we do traditional schools is so very important. And so at the very core of what we work on as a professional learning community is that we want to take each and every and all kids to high levels of learning, right? And in doing so, that fundamentally changes how we work as a school, right? And as a faculty. So if you're just starting, don't skip that part, right? So spend a little bit of time. Now, I also want to encourage you, don't get stuck on that part, right? Like engage in the work, okay? So spend the necessary time there, but don't get stuck there. And because if we're constantly, analyzing why are we doing it, then we might engage in paralysis by analysis, and we don't want to do that either, right? So that's for people who are just starting, right? Or thinking about starting. But for those of you who have been engaged in the process and feel like, man, we have really put in some of the work, and maybe you're getting ready to apply or wondering what that process looks like to apply for a national model school, here would be my encouragement to you. If you're questioning whether or not you should do that, go to that website, allthingsplc.info. There are several links on there that give you a lot of information about the process itself. What does it look like? Should you apply, right? It gives you some kind of benchmarks to look for of, does this exist in your school? Does that exist in your school? Are you guys currently doing this? So it gives you some things to think about before you ever spend the time applying. But if you get through with those things and you read through that and you go, I'm not really sure, here's what I would encourage you to do. Make the application, right? Do the application, because even if you don't get the recognition of National Model School the very first time, what you will get is really valuable feedback from a committee of people who review your application. So there's various committees of people. They're associates just like me who have lived this process at different levels, but there's a committee for elementary schools and a committee for middle schools and a different one for high schools and districts. And so you have real people who read each one of those applications and then give relevant and real feedback to each one of those applicants, right? And so the feedback might be, hey, congratulations, you guys are definitely a national model school, and here are the reasons why, and we're so excited for you. The feedback might be, hey, we need a little more information. Like, we see where you're implementing parts of the process, but we want some more information on this area or on that area, and you're able to resubmit. Or the feedback might be, hey, we don't think you're quite there yet. Here are some areas that we'd really like for you to focus on. These are some things that in the next year or so, or a couple of years, we really want you to pay attention to and to really work in these areas. And then we would love for you to reapply again, right? So you're going to get really valuable feedback during that process. But I would encourage you, sift through that website to find out more about the process itself.
And I can tell you, we did have revisions that came back, and that's okay. It was something where when you're telling that story, you're so ingrained and in the middle, engulfed in that story, that you don't understand what it would take for someone to be able to really start that. They need the right information from you as a model to be able to understand kind of step by step how these things came together. And so for us, we did have a few pages of revisions afterwards. And initially it was, oh, okay, what does this mean? No, what it meant was they just need more information, because we had all of those things they were asking for. We had them. We just had to submit that and understand what they were looking for. And so I really encourage people to look at that website, to look at the schools that have already had that, like Brandon had talked about, pull up their documents, see what things that they're looking for, because these are the people who have gone through that process, who have done the revisions and who have resubmitted. And so again, don't be discouraged if your initial application isn't like, yes, you've got this. If we would have been, what a shame that would have been.
Yeah, so for those of you that are thinking about applying, let me just give you some of the criteria that the committees would be looking for. So number one is they're looking for at least 3 years of sustained student growth and achievement, right? Now some schools report that through state testing data, but there are many other measures that you can report as well, whether it's behavioral improvements or national scores on tests, or even interim scores on things like map data and things like that. So lots of different ways to present your information, but that's one of the key factors that we're looking for. Then the other factors have to do with, what does your process look like in your school? How are you implementing the PLC process? So there's a few things that are tight in the PLC process that we want to look for. So are you engaging in a collaborative process in collaborative teams? And do those collaborative teams agree on a guaranteed and viable curriculum that they're going to implement unit by unit? And then do those teams write common formative assessments to see where their students are in this process? And then also, how do they grow as professionals from that process? How do we find best practices and better practices? And then also, how are we implementing a systematic, guaranteed intervention and extension system for our kids, right? How are we addressing kids and helping kids who still need support in learning the essentials? And then how are we extending the students who have already learned the essentials? So those are some of the key factors that you'll read about on that website. The other thing that I would say is this, just to kind of close this thought out, is please don't wait to apply Uh, don't wait until you feel like you're perfect. You're a perfect school. There are no perfect schools. There are no perfect processes. And I've seen so many schools and a lot of school leaders that I talk to that will go, we thought about applying, but man, we really want to improve in this area. We really need to get this right before we do that. If we keep waiting for that, we may never apply, right? So I want to encourage you, like wherever you are in your journey, if you feel like you've got those processes in place and you've got that student achievement in place, apply and see what happens.
It is a big process, though, but it is rewarding. I feel like once you're in the process, there's no turning back. It's like we gotta keep going, and it's also you're building on it. And then when you bring in your peers, your group, your team, then they kind of encourage you to keep going as a leader. So it's exciting. Anybody who is listening, definitely consider all of what is being said here because it's valuable. It's from the actual people who are in the field, who have done it, who have experienced it on both sides. So any last thoughts before we leave our interview here?
I'll just say I'm very grateful for the opportunities that we've been provided, very proud of what has come out of this wonderful work. And I just encourage people, if you are not currently taking part in this work, your kids deserve it, your students deserve it, your staff deserves it. And I really encourage people to start seeking the resources and start learning. And you'll see, once you start, you don't want to go back. You don't want to go back to the old ways. You want to continue to improve yourself.
Yeah, and I would just say this, and again, thank you for the invitation to come and share a few thoughts with people who might be listening. But just in closing, our great friend and mentor, the late and great Rick DeFore, would say that we are the greatest generation of educators this planet has ever seen. And I would just echo that. And I don't want to lose sight of that, especially as we are learning new ways to educate students and new ways to come out of a time period in education that we've never experienced before. I still believe that holds true. And I still think that if he were here today, he would be shouting that from the mountaintops as well. So for those of you who are listening, thank you for doing what you do. You are our students' very best hope for their future. So thank you so much for doing what you do.
Well, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being available for this interview. And it's just so great to talk to you and to meet you as well. It's always an honor to speak to our education leadership because I know you're so busy and involved in so many things and your own professional development. It's like, I don't even know, do you sleep? Like, I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Right. Well, Principal Annie, thank you for sharing your success story with us, and Mr. Jones for your insight on PLC.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. And Brandon, so good to see you again. Thank you so much for all you helped us do. We appreciate it.
It's great to see you, Annie. You guys did all the heavy lifting. So thanks for letting me be a part of it.
To learn more about their strategies and data on becoming a model PLC school, visit their schools page at www.allthingsplc.info. There's a section there titled See the Evidence, where you can search for Tongue River Elementary School or other schools similar to yours. Now you can also visit our Solution Tree website to learn more about Brandon Jones, and if you would like to request his professional development guidance, go to solutiontree.com and look for Brandon Jones' page to fill out your request. Also, be sure to check out part 1 of this 2-episode podcast special event titled From PLC Lite to PLC Done Right, a conversation with Tongue River Elementary School, part 1. All right, now for our sponsor message here from the company. At Solution Tree, we share your vision to transform education to ensure learning for all. We can help make this vision a reality. No other professional learning company provides our unique blend of research-based, results-driven services that improve learning outcomes for students. All right, we appreciate you tuning in. Make sure to navigate to our solutiontree.com/podcast page to listen to our other episodes. There you can subscribe to our podcast today. Just click on the subscribe button and it'll just drop down to your favorite podcast app. Also, as a friendly reminder, navigate to our YouTube channel and like our episodes and also hit subscribe. This has been your host, Prisma Lopez Marine. Thank you for listening to our podcast, Charting New Paths in Pre-K to 12 Education.